Good. How are you?
Uh, well, you'll find out in a second.
That's true.
Yeah. Uh, well, we are live. Welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask Us Anything. I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild and RIZE Presses. I am here with our amazing editors. Um, and this time it's me and Ben. So I know we're not going to have Rod. He had a death in the family.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, the poor man. So they're you know taking care of a variety of things in that capacity. And I'm not sure if we'll have Amy and Peter and so on, but hey, we got each other, so
There
that
we have it.
rocks.
We'll make do. We will make do.
we we will make do. Yeah, we're good at entertaining ourselves. So, um, if you are watching and you're not familiar with this, we basically take an hour of our day on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, and answer whatever questions you may have around publishing, editing, the craft of writing, actually, and anything you want. Um, so to kind of fill in that gap of what we hear in the media or what we may hear at conferences and so on versus what our experiences are on a regular basis. So, guys, use us, right? We are your resources. We are here to be resources for you. So, with that, if you have a question or a comment or anything, just go ahead and go into the comment section of whatever venue you're watching this, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you name any of it. And what we basically do is I'll repeat the question, and then we take turns in responding to said question. So with that, Ben, how you doing, young man? I feel like it's been ages since
It
we
has been
have
a couple of
done
weeks,
this.
2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
But
So what have
it's
you been up to?
it's been busy. It's
Mm,
I've got a short story collection, not the anthology, but author short story collection. Uh, Working on it slowly as I work a little harder on a novel that I'm editing,
nice.
and it's it's uh it's going. I'll put it
Uh,
that way.
okay.
Because I lost access to Google Docs there along the way, and but
Uh,
got it back and got back on track. So we're on the same in the same version of the same story now, anyway, and that's a good thing.
oh, no, that's a great thing. Oh my goodness, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. Well, between the two of us, I know I lost access, but he was wondering where his access went,
Mm.
and so he asked me to restore a historical version of in Google Docs, which I did, and then he found the first one, and that's the one he was working on while I was working on the one I restored. So,
Oh, oops. Yike.
but we seem to be back aligned, and
Mm,
it's just one of those things that it's going to happen. You know, of all
yeah.
the things that can happen, it'll find you. But
Yeah.
you work your way through it.
Yep.
It
Yep.
may slow you
Understood.
down for people waiting, but
Mm.
I wasn't moving too fast anyway.
Hey, it's all good. CJ Grant says, "Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. CJ, it is fabulous to see you. Thank you so much for joining us." Um, so Ben, I feel you on the iterations. I'm in the middle of editing a memoir, a novel, an epic fantasy, and actually, and I'm about to start on another manuscript. I actually get to meet with the author tonight to kind of talk through the editing process and all that stuff so that he feels comfortable. Um, but I have a phenomenal memoir that I'm highly collaborative with the memoirist on.
Yeah.
Um, and he's so excited and eager that he keeps reaching out with new iterations, which is great. But it's also like, okay, stop doing that so that I can actually like I
Yeah.
can get let me get through the whole thing, you know.
Yes.
So and then I can provide the feedback. So, but he is such a pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
Um I'm really looking forward to when we've got like the final version of the memoir so that I feel like we can talk about it if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. So but it's one of those I think,
That he's
huh?
making and better understand the changes that he's doing behind you. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because there's a lot of elaboration going on because as we're um we're basically taking it from being, you know, like little vignettes of stories and really making it more of like a holistic, like it already had a theme, if that makes sense, but um making it so that you get fulfillment out of each chapter as well as across the memoir.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to have an opportunity to work on this. And it's one of those that it's uh when we can talk about it, well, when I feel comfortable talking about it, because I you know me, right? Like I don't really feel comfortable talking about it until we've got like a complete
Yes.
piece, and then it's like, okay, now you know we can go forward and all
Yeah.
that. But this is one of those where we were actually recommended to him by multiple sources, and um, it's just such an honor to have multiple people. Like when someone asks, what small press would you go with, that they say, oh, Running Wild, boom,
Yeah.
here,
Oh,
reach
sure.
out to Lisa. Like to me that's a big honor.
Yeah.
Um, because there's some ridiculous statistic out there in terms of the number of presses that exist. It's like in the thousands,
Yeah.
and within the first year, half of them fail, like they just disappear. Um, and then within the first 5 years, another half of that disappears. So,
Yes.
uh,
And one of
just
them took my book with them.
oh, bastard.
It was supposed to have been released, but then they disappeared. So I took the book back.
Oh, well, that part's good. The
Yeah.
taking the book
Yeah.
part. Yeah. Caroline says, "Hey guys, Lisa and Ben, great to see you. Great to see you too. We missed you too. It has been a wild couple weeks. Um, first, I went to a conference, which, by the way, I definitely want to recommend this conference to anyone who is an aspiring author. Um, it's Superstars writing, and they have a phenomenal list of folks who come and speak. Everything from fully independent authors, who are, I mean, in essence, they're self-publishing, um, but they have their own way of getting things done. It's really looking at the business side of publishing, which um, when I found out about this conference, I thought, well, thank God someone's finally really talking about the business side, right? Because I think a lot of times when you go to writers conferences or conferences that are associated with publishing, it gets very people get this like glamorized view of how things work and how stories get out there and all that. And in all honesty, a lot of times it's not realistic, but you know, to finally have a conference, and I say finally, this conference has been around for a while. Um, they that really, I mean, they're like no holds barred, like this is how things work, right? And like this is how you get the word out, and here are the things that you need to do. And I in one of the panels that I was on, it was interesting because um one of the authors who was on the panel, who's actually published by a major press, said, you know, I think that really half of the work, if you want a career uh in writing, right? Half of the work is writing the actual piece, and the other half is, guess what? It's the promotion, it's the marketing, it's the going out and, say, building relationships with different organizations, right? I mean, there's a lot of hoofing it that goes on behind the scenes that, unless you really are, paying attention to what your favorite authors are doing, you may not realize they're doing all this additional work to make things happen. um, so I just think it's phenomenal that Superstars exists. Um, Now, although I do have a funny insert foot and mouth disease story from the conference. So, and anyone who knows me from like my teens onward knows I actually used to be infamous for foot and mouth disease, so it's not all that rare. It's not all that weird that this occurred, but uh, one of the founders of Superstars of Writing is Kevin J. Anderson. And so, just in case, if you don't know who Kevin J. Anderson is, so Kevin J. Anderson is a hugely best-selling author, incredibly kind gentleman, um, and he is. I'm just pulling up his um his blogs so that you can check it out if you are not familiar with Kevin. Um, but he felt it was very important for aspiring authors to become familiar with the business side. But he was also one of the executive producers for Dune, the new Dune. um, and So, of course, when while I was at the conference, he was kind enough to sit down, and he was talking to myself and a fellow author, a dear friend. And I forget how the topic of Dune came up, but I said, I said, "Oh my gosh, the new Dune was so disappointing because it just felt like it was a setup for you to get to Dune 2, right?" And I didn't think this was unusual. Like I didn't realize that no one. Well, I don't know that no one told Kevin that a good part of the general public actually felt that way. But I said this, and um, well, they were like, "Oh, Lisa doesn't realize that you're the executive producer for Dune," and I go, "Yes, I do." And, the look on the people's faces who were in this conversation were like, "Holy shit, she's lost her mind." And I was like, "Well, it's just because in the original Dune, I mean, it was a 3-hour film, but, you got fulfillment, you know, in the different segments of it, right? Versus again, it just felt like here's this cliffhanger, but there's nothing that was that gave you made you feel like it was worth these 2 hours. Okay, that came out completely wrong, but you know what I mean. So yeah, so My infamous insert foot and mouth disease did me well. Uh, so far I haven't gotten any death threats or um, he hasn't reached out to me to tell me to kiss off. So fingers crossed I didn't tick him off tick him off too badly. Um, but in my interactions with him, he was actually very, very kind and very generous. So um, Caroline says, "Hi Margaret. Question, Lisa and Ben. What do the two of you think of our good events to go to this year? Good like breadloaf. Oh, broadleaf. Oh, good like broadleaf. I've never been to broadleaf. Duh. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm going to defer to you because
Yeah, okay.
AWP was in Kansas City, but it's over.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Um,
it
I
just
mean,
ended last week.
I've never been to broadleaf. I'm looking at it now. Um, uh, I'd say for broadleaf at least, reach out to if you haven't been to it, just reach out to folks who've been to it and ask them their thoughts on it. My personal favorites are Bread Loaf, um, Yale Writers Conference, which sounds incredibly elitist, but that's okay. Um, let's see, Bread Loaf Writers Conference. I'm just looking up the URLs for them. Um, Ohio, University of Ohio, if they still have a writers conference, their writers conference was amazing. Um, let's see. I have a bias in that um, I am actually a huge fan of uh, pen writers, in part because yeah, I'm originally from the board. If you want a conference that's really good in terms of like variety of genres, Penn Writers is actually really good for that because a lot of the membership are like uh, romance, mystery, thriller. So at least in previous years, that meant that there were workshops that would be focused on key components of the craft of writing associated with those specific genres. So, let's see, I'll look that one up. And it's also reasonably priced, which not all writers' conferences are, but
CJ says she's partial to pen writers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, how about near you? Like, what ones are your favorites?
Um, the ones I can get to when I when I can. Uh, that is a a hole in my experience
Oh,
to
really?
actually have the week to go.
Oh, no, agreed. Yeah, usually when I go, um it's like a long weekend, it's like a
Yeah.
Thursday. Yeah. Um Another really good one is Chautauqua. Let's see. And I gave the link. Oh, so Caroline asks, where are you guys going this year? So I did Superstars of Writing. Um we're actually going to have a big announcement with Drexel in partnership with Drexel University in May. So I'll be at their MFA program May, I believe it's well, technically April 29th through May 11th. So um honestly, I don't I'm right now I don't have a lot of conferences on my schedule. Um we usually get reached out to, I want to say like a couple months before a conference. Oh, actually, I will be at StokerCon, which will be in San Diego. this year. So StokerCon is the Horror Writers Association's conference. And that's another one that's a really good balance of both craft and like the business of writing. So if you're interested, I'd say definitely check that one out too. But yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it. I did Superstars, I'll do Drexel, and I'll be at StokerCon. Um, and as always, I mean, I don't know about then, but if you guys want us to come and speak at your conference or your, you know, workshop or whatever, just reach out, right? Because um, we speak both remotely and in person. So I don't know, Ben. What do you think? My cat is going to drive me apeshit. I'm just saying.
There was one that you went to last year. Was it Book Fest?
Oh yeah, I did. I actually. Thank you for correcting me. I just did Bookfest again this year.
Okay,
Um,
it's already happened.
yeah. Well, they. I was. They asked me to be the keynote. Um, so we did a pre-recording,
Okay.
and here's a link to Bookfest. Bookfest is that one's fully digital, so that's really nice. Like if you have time constraints or if you have you know, like me and Ben where, you know, we can't really give up, excuse me, an entire week or 10 days like we
On
used
Thursday
to.
night.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Then Bookfest is a really nice one to check out. So,
Yeah.
let's see. I think that that's all the ones uh that
Yeah.
I'm that I can think of right now. Yeah. Caroline says, "How about good literary?" I'd say literary festivals. On like usually Brooklyn at least used to have a book festival that was really cool. Um I'd say nowadays most major cities have a book festival. Oh yeah, yeah, like LA, Los Angeles, LA Times has a festival of books that if you're from this area, it's definitely worth it. Um and here's a link. It's in partnership with USC, so that's pretty cool. And that's in April. Um, but yeah, I mean, I hear Brooklyn Book Festival. That one's I've heard lots of great things about that one. Like I said, LA Times. Um, I think San Diego actually has a book festival as well. Yeah, Festival of Books. And that one's in partnership with the University of San Diego. This link will take you to um, the information for 2023's stuff. Um, but I'm sure they'll post more details around 2024. So I hate to admit this, but I've actually only I think I've been to one book festival. Um, like I think the Philadelphia Festival of Books ages ago, because I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. And then, you know, obviously a bunch of writers conferences and craft conferences, and then uh, several Comic Cons. But I haven't been to that many book festivals because back in the day, a book festival was generally speaking associated with some other kind of festival. Um, so I would go to that bigger, festival versus um, just you know, the festival of books, which that's like a thing now. But um, Caroline asks, what do you have planned for spring? At first, she typed Spain, and I was like, we're going to Spain?
Really?
Yes.
I don't know. It's a surprise.
But yeah, so what do you have planned for the spring?
Oh, I'm waiting on warmer weather. And,
Mm.
that will be nice. But I'm actually personally uh, typing up, and I've been typing them up for a year now. But um,
That's true.
I've from let's see, May 2023 to now, I've got that covered. But so I'm back to August 2022 to May 2023 that have to be typed up, and
Mm.
let's see, I think I'm up to 10 or 11 collections that are typed up and just need a home. But
Wow.
I let it get away from me, and then they piled up.
Mm. Got it. Uh,
But that's the spring when I fit that in between everything else.
mm. Yeah, I honestly, my plans are more around like we have about 14 books that we had acquired that we
Mm.
still need to assign editors to and get in the pipeline to be published. So my focus really is on getting all of those books covered, and whether if that means me personally as the editor or finding a great editor for them, you know. Um, and then we're also our core team. So there's the our acquisition editors and some of the folks behind the scenes. We usually meet like I want to say like twice a year to kind of go over like how things are going, how are sales, any kind of trends, how are we doing in terms of um reaching our objectives, right? Because we um as a team sit down and say, okay, like what are our key objective for the coming 6 months to a year, and then like 5 years, so on. So how are we doing tracking against those? And if we're not doing tracking against them well, then okay, so either A, what can we do to better meet those objectives? Or B, um, should we be more realistic in terms of that? And admittedly, during COVID especially, um, man, sales in general in terms of stories were all over the place across the board. Like there was a whole period where I mean like nobody was buying books, but all of a sudden audiobook sales skyrocketed. And then it's like it flipped, right? All of a sudden when people realized I guess that they could order books to be delivered to their door, then paperbacks suddenly increased in sales. And then we had a period where ebooks, for some reason, became like the thing. So and this is across the board, by the way, across the all of the publishing industry and broadly speaking. So we kind of sit back and look at these trends and figure out, all right, well, how do we want to approach this? What do we want to do? All that kind of thing. So we've got that coming up on March 1st, as we're going to have our core meeting. And I feel awful because unfortunately I contracted COVID a couple weeks ago, and I'm still testing positive. Like literally this morning, I still tested positive, which blows my mind. And so if it should clear up. I mean, this strain, it turned, my understanding is this strain of COVID, for whatever reason, it rebounds. So, like, I had come up clean, uh, I tested negative, um, I want to say like 4 days ago. And then this morning, or 3 days ago, and then this morning I tested positive. So, my fingers are crossed that in the next couple of days, it's gonna, you know, div I don't know, go away,
Wait,
go away. Like, this has
not
been
come back.
enough. Yeah, I don't need this anymore. My whole body felt like it was one big arthritic episode. Like, I do not that sucked beyond. So, I really don't need to experience that. But anyway. Um, so my apologies, guys. That's why we've been in and out, is because I was traveling for the conference, and then I contracted COVID, and uh, it's it's really sucky. But anyway, so Margaret says I'll be in Amsterdam in July, and I'm gonna be jealous that you're in Amsterdam because I love Amsterdam. uh, Tejas says, "Do you have any out of U.S. experiences coming up?" I don't know, Ben. Do you have any plans for traveling outside of the U.S.?
No, I went to Sicily last May,
Mm.
and I've got to recover. No, it was for actually a conference on consciousness, the
Hmm.
consciousness studies, which is what my dissertation is in. You may not know it, but I have a
And
dissertation in consciousness studies. It's
how
published,
did?
but I think it's out of print already. It's been 16 years, but
Oh, wow. Mhm.
it was I really am not that much involved in that world of work and thought, but it was a good chance to attend and get out of the country post COVID and
There you
get back to Europe, because I hadn't been in Europe since '89, I guess. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was a good experience. It's a well attended conference on consciousness studies from a wide
Mm,
range of neuroscience to philosophers and anything in between, and poets in between.
mm. Nice.
That's one of the collections I'm working on, is the Book of Consciousness.
I see.
With the
Did you have any like major takeaways from the conference?
uh, they are stuck in the '70s. They're still trying to get they're still trying to talk about consciousness in terms of mathematics and gravity, but
Oh, wow.
and quantum physics, and it's not a good fit. And so all the references are uh, a bunch of old white guys from the '70s, and there's got to be some progress in there, between the last 50 years, but there's really not. I was at a conference one time with neuroscience. This is when I was working on the dissertation in DC, and I went to a conference where neuroscientists and the Dalai Lama were discussing meditation,
Oh,
and the
my.
neuroscientists were all proud of themselves for finding out that meditation actually changes the physical aspects of the brain, the shape of the brain. And the
Mm.
Dalai Lama looked at him and said, "Yes, I know." It kind of shut him down. Of course he knows, but, but it's it's
I'm
a
sorry.
it's an aspect of research that I need to do more of.
Mm.
And it started last fall, or last May. I'm convinced that consciousness, like gravity, is a shared substance. Some people
Yeah,
just use more of it than others.
that wouldn't surprise
Gravity
me.
and consciousness. A lot of
Yeah.
people use a lot more gravity than other people, and some people use a lot more consciousness than others. It's a shared substance.
There's a well, and there's a dig in there on those who use less amounts of consciousness.
More or less. There's only so much. The weight of the world is determined.
Mm.
It never changes.
Oh my goodness. Well,
How did we
I
get
don't
here?
I don't know, but it's actually pretty hilarious. Um, well, I'm not. I don't have anything planned for outside the U.S. This year. That said, again, I'm more than open to either speaking at some place or if or either in person or remotely. So um, just reach out to us and we will follow up. So. And by the way, if you're watching this and it's not Thursday between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, and you're like, what the hell are these people talking about? Um, and you have got questions, you can go ahead and pop them into the comment section because believe it or not, we actually do follow up during the week and look for any kind of new comments and so on. And then if there's something that we think would be pertinent to for others to hear about or see or what have you, we'll follow up on it in the subsequent Run Wild with Us Ask Us Anything. Um, so Caroline says, "Do we have to continue to rewrite history, Ben?"
Yes, yes, we do.
I just feel like there's so much that we just don't know, understand, or have any kind of um I don't know, perspective on that we don't even realize it. And it's like when you go back and look at when humans used to drill holes in skulls because to get rid of headaches, right? I mean, I'm convinced we still have a whole lot of stuff like that that we still adamantly believe in, and that, if you fast forward even 10 years, but definitely 50, you're going to discover a lot more examples similar to drilling a hole in someone's brain. But
Yeah. And there's so many. Well, the written history that we learn is people, places, and dates, and a lot of it overlooks the witness firsthand testimony of witnesses who saw it. So when you go back, even for your own writing, when you go back and you discover that human experience, that that's a person who lived through it, and it's not in a history book anywhere, but it's
Mhm,
still relevant and valid, and maybe it impacts a character that I'm writing about, and
mhm,
pull it
mhm.
into the story that you're working on, because it is valid. It's it's not uh, pick a date, April 4th, 1968 or whatever, and but it's those witness stories that are more interesting than the history books anyway. But the history
Mm.
books are just a threshold to get you there, to give you an appreciation for the research and the digging down through human experiences.
Well, and we've talked about this before. I don't believe that there is really such a thing as like a bad guy, right? Like we basically create these two-dimensional characters because it's much easier for us to take a one side, but everyone does something based on, they have some kind of impetus or something that they believe in that is what spawns them to do whatever it is that they're doing. Um and that's why I think, having multiple points of view on a topic within um, a narrative is so important because, um, you know, you can't really understand someone else's perspective until you you have a view into their perspective. And history books, especially. are coming to a bias that with a very specific position, I guess you could say. Um, it's funny. I remember when I was growing up, my father used to say he was a card carrying communist, right? And which at the time, what we're talking about, like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that was like a huge faux pas. You were not allowed to be a communist because communists were the devil, right? Like that was basically. But what's interesting about all that is if you would have backed up in a decade, right? So when he was growing up, so my father was born in 1922. Um, at that time, communism was actually an acknowledged political party
Mhm.
within the United States, and was once um, the Nazis actually became, I guess you could say, a thing. That's when it became um, considered to be like, no, you cannot, you cannot have a communist viewpoint. Um, and the definition of communism, uh, democracy, and republicanism have all changed throughout the years. So someone who self identifies as a Democrat today um, would have most likely self identified as a Republican, I want to say about 100 years ago. So um, it's just interesting that we don't, instead of looking at things from the perspective of, the different viewpoints and why, and understanding why people have the perspectives that they have, that we keep trying to find, or we keep finding ways to polarize um, the different political parties. So anyway, I have no idea what put me on that tangent, so sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing to remember too when you're writing a period piece, that the perspectives that you have experienced now are not the perspectives that were experienced then. And it's I think there was a novel I was working on with the Pledge of Allegiance
Mm-hmm.
that it was from the 40s, and it said under God, and under God was not in the Pledge of Allegiance until 1956,
Oh, no
because
way.
we had to show the godless Soviets that we were under God and they weren't. We had to make that distinction.
Hmm.
But so there's those aspects of history that writers need to know and be aware of, and
Mm-hmm.
make sure it's right. Because some reader somewhere, I'll be that reader somewhere that says that's not right. Fact check it, ruin the whole story.
Well, I mean, but to your point, right, understanding the context of why different decisions were made or why different actions were taken, it changes the entire story, right? It changes the entire meaning. And I think it's so easy to just simply go with the two-dimensional perspective that we're provided um, in different formats, instead of saying, I want to know why this is the way it is, right? I want to understand what's the impetus for whatever, under God, or whatever the statement is. So um
There we go.
Rod said, huh?
There we go.
There you go. Rod says, body slumbers in a chair, consciousness drifts away. The computer was on. Oh, I'm here. Hi, guys. Hey, Rod. Taz says, reminds me of the quote, feel pain to know pain. Oh, that's interesting. Um, Caroline says, totally changed Lisa. Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, uh, there are some nonfiction works that actually explore this, and explore, how our politics have changed in the United States. Why, like, or why there is Social Security, right? And how different political um, perspectives were taken and run with, I guess you could say. Um, and it's interesting too because that uh, the less people decide that they want to understand what caused these different decisions to be made, um, I think the less they understand what's really driving various, activities. And I don't know. It's a shame. Uh, it's a shame. Rod says, where no man has gone before, I heard a rumor that even this has been changed. Egad, where no man has gone before. Mm,
Is that Star Trek?
I'm guessing it's Star Trek. Yeah. I thought it was Star Trek. I don't think did that one's change? I don't know. Yeah, it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
But anyway. So guys, we only have 14 minutes left. This is insane. So
Good.
clearly I've just been blathering out of my butt for the last 45 minutes. Um Caroline says it is up to writers to explain the time they lived in and the truth of the era they write out. Yeah, it is. So anyway, but yeah, guys, don't forget, if you've got a question, just put it into the comments section. We'll repeat it and we'll take turns responding to it. If you're watching this and it's the recording, it's all good. Again, just pop it into the comments section. We do follow during the course, uh, during the week, and just to see if there's any more comments or questions that have come forward. Taya says, wow, time went by really fast. Yeah, it really did. Oh, good. So I wasn't just blathering to myself.
No, no.
It actually,
It's the speed of mind.
yes, clearly, speed of mind.
Which
Well,
is
what do you
really quick.
have? Well, yeah. Um,
How much consciousness you use.
oh, you so went there. And I love you for going there. This is like, in case. I wonder, so have you actually invented a means of measuring consciousness?
No.
No.
But I'm working on it.
Okay.
Because there's not a scale yet, but it's oh there's ideas that are coming together. As you might imagine, I have ideas.
Oh yeah. You have actually really cool ideas.
Yeah,
I
the
I
consciousness scale. That would be how much
hmm.
consciousness are you using? Is
Oh, that just sounds evil. Why did you even
yeah, oh
say
yeah.
that?
It's
How
you
much
don't always
consciousness?
have to go supernatural to be evil.
No, that's true. You don't. You could just simply use less amounts of consciousness
And control it.
and control it. Mm,
Yeah,
yep. Rod says, COVID girl, you are not actually here. You are asleep on your couch.
yeah.
Ah, if only. Oh, goodness. Uh, oh, so Caroline says, okay, Ben, write about it. All right,
Oh,
you've
oh,
just been, she just basically put you on a dare.
yeah. I told you I'm working on the book of consciousness.
That's true. That is very true. And I need, I know I have another book I need to um put out there, but um
It's
First
not a
I'm
trilogy until the
making it
third
my
book is done.
priority to actually well, bite me. It's I didn't think it was I was just gonna keep writing them until people tell me to suck it. So, you know, but in the meantime, my guilty consciousness won't
I know.
allow me to start working on the third book until we get all those. I think it's 13 total that still need editors. So we're getting there. We are getting
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And to
When are
all
you going to
those
take March
amazing,
and
huh?
finish Tim's book, NFG, the NFG book?
Oh, the one that you guys have
Yeah.
decided you're gonna just
Yeah,
keep
March is
revising
it. I split
forever.
March up. I'll get these two out of the way, and I'll do March, and then I'll be ready to do those 13 in April.
Did you tell him he's not allowed to make more edits?
No,
Well, then
he's working on.
until you do that, you're gonna
I
be
think he's.
doing
I
this
think he's done.
forever.
I think he's circled back and waiting on me.
Uh-huh.
We have a good
Well, hopefully.
relationship. Tim and I understand each other. Yeah,
I'm hearing that.
our
Oh,
consciousness is
and
shared.
so actually, I would love some feedback on this. So, yeah, we've got exactly 13 titles that still need editors to be assigned to them. So, guys, we're getting there. We are definitely getting there. Um, but I would love feedback in terms of like, where do you guys get your favorite stories? I asked that because I actually just got pinged by IPG, our distributor, that the sales conference is coming up in, I think it's end of March. So if you have recommendations on where you get your favorite stories, that would be awesome because I can leverage that um, for the sales conference. So and again, any recommendations? Caroline says, "Do you want another fiction novel?" Of course, we want another fiction novel. That said, we as a core team agreement that we're going to first assign and complete all of the books that we've already acquired, and only once that's done, then we would move forward and new submissions. So, anyone who is interested in submitting to us, please feel free to send your work in, but also be aware that it's probably going to be at least another 6 months. That's my guess. Um, Before we're going to actually acquire more titles. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that and you're not freaked out if you send something into us and you don't hear back immediately. I've had a couple of people reach out to me in the last month, just letting us know, like, hey, I got a book offer elsewhere, or I was just wondering where you guys were, meaning us, in terms of reviewing submissions. And I'm pretty sure we actually do have it on our submittable page, but the reality is we're not really we're not actively, I guess you could say, acquiring new titles until um, we fulfilled our agreements with the current books. So please don't get freaked out if you don't hear from us immediately. Taya asks, what about comics? Actually, I just opened up conversations with a company that they create comics. So like you provide the manuscript, and then they help you find an artist, a comic artist to partner with and all that kind of thing. Um, so I wouldn't say that we're not actively necessarily looking at comics. What I am uh, interested in potentially doing, similar to how we expanded into audiobooks, is taking like our novellas or short stories and publishing them in comic form. So, potentially taking novellas that we've already published in previous anthologies and publishing them independently of one another in a graphic novel format. Um, that said, I mean, that's a whole nother endeavor, and it's something that we're just really kind of looking into. Um, so there's no promises around that. It's more of a just something that we are definitely looking into. I
We
hope.
had that conversation about it with the graphic artists
Mm,
or the graphic novel author, and we were standing in the doorway and asked for a conversation with that author, and the author shut the door and turned us away. But we
mm,
were interested in having the conversation anyway. You remember, Lisa? We were
mhm.
ready to have that conversation. But
Yeah, he just disappeared.
if
It was
there's a
really
better place
strange.
that's yeah, a better place with a reputation of working on comics or graphic novels, then
Mm,
we might point you that way right now.
yeah, exactly. And the same thing with anything like children's books. That I would definitely not claim that as being an area of our expertise. So, at this juncture, if there are opportunities, well, if we're submitted something like that, 9 times out of 10, we're just going to reply and let you know that, this isn't really our area of expertise. You probably wouldn't find your audience um, through us just because our distribution channels aren't specialized for things like children's books or comics and so on. So um, it doesn't mean that we won't necessarily explore it. It just means that we're going to actively ask you questions if you are submitting us stuff that's not necessarily in our core wheelhouse of expertise, just to make sure that you're aware, like, hey, this isn't necessarily the best place, the best home for your work, and you may want to reconsider where you're submitting it, if that makes sense.
And at one time, we would have said the same thing about a poetry collection, but then the lost song of Nina Simone came across, which is it's not necessarily biographical, but it's certainly based on the life of Nina Simone, and it caught our eye and changed our mind, and so it's in production now, but it was definitely a theme on Nina Simone and her life, and but it is a collection of poetry.
Yep, totally. Um, Tia asks, well, a question for next week, but I mean, honestly, we could probably answer it now. What was the rudest moment you have ever come across?
Other than like tonight,
Where all of a sudden both of us are like,
I
I
wasn't
was,
rude.
I wasn't, no, no, never. Wow, what was the rudest moment I've ever come across? Uh,
Writing related, writing related,
I
related
guess
to
so.
writing.
Yeah, let's say related to writing.
Yeah, because I know some rude people.
I know, right? You don't have to be a writer to be rude.
Yeah. It just helps.
Uh, yeah, you know what? I'll have to think about that because I can think of rude moments from agents, from publishing houses, from authors. So I'd have to think about like what was the absolute rudest, you know?
Mhm.
hmm
I
So
would go with Louise. Uh, I never said her last name right, but Gluck or whatever it was. Her feedback to me in a workshop was was not very supportive.
Oh my.
Yeah,
uh,
but
Rod says a phone call with a publicist comes to mind. Yeah, I've had a couple of those. And I was like, how did I get here? And why are they mean? But anyway. Ooh, and with that, guess what,
yeah,
guys? Boom! We are
man,
done. So with that, thank you guys. Thanks, Rod, Caroline, Teha, Margaret. All you guys are just absolutely CJ, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. And with that, we will see you next week. Cool.